How much money do you actually need to retire? $1 million? 2 million? 3 million? Search for the answer online and you'll find all three. And depending on who you ask, you might get a percentage of your current salary, a complicated formula, or somebody telling you that you need enough money to become a minor billionaire. It can get ridiculous. Numbers everywhere. $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And somewhere in the middle, you're wondering, okay, but what number is actually mine? Here's the problem. There isn't one magic retirement number that works for everyone, because the amount you need depends on something much more important than your salary. It depends on how much you plan to spend. And by the end of this video, we're going to take a real example and work backwards to find a retirement target that actually makes sense. Let's start with a number you've probably heard before, 4%. The 4% rule is one of the most commonly discussed starting points for retirement withdrawals. The basic idea is pretty simple. If you have a retirement portfolio, you withdraw about 4% in the first year, and then adjust that dollar amount for inflation in future years. The traditional rule was designed around a roughly 30-year retirement period, and here's where the math gets interesting. If you want to spend $60,000 a year, you can reverse the calculation. Take $60,000 and multiply it by 25. $60,000 times 25 equals $1,500,000. $1.5 million. Looks pretty simple, right? Well, not so fast, because there are some pretty big assumptions hiding inside that number. The first problem is time. A traditional 30-year retirement assumption might make sense for someone retiring around a conventional retirement age, but what if you retire at 50 or 55? Your money may need to last for 40 years or even longer. And there's another problem. The 4% rule assumes a relatively consistent spending pattern, but that's not necessarily how real people spend money in retirement. Think about the first few years of retirement. You've got time. You've got energy, and suddenly, Monday morning doesn't mean anything anymore. That's when you may want to travel, play golf, eat out, visit family, take the trip you've been putting off for 20 years. These are often called the go-go years. You have the time, and you want to use it. Then things can change. You may travel less, eat out less, spend more time close to home. Those can become the slow-go years. And later in life, your spending may change again. You may spend less on travel and entertainment, but healthcare and long-term care can become much bigger expenses. Those are sometimes called the no-go years. So retirement spending isn't necessarily a straight line. It can look more like a smile. So what should you actually calculate? This is where we stop guessing and start building your number. And the first number we need isn't your salary, it's your spending. Imagine you're planning for retirement and determine that your lifestyle will cost about $50,000 a year. That number should include the things you actually expect to pay for: housing, food, utilities, healthcare, insurance, transportation, taxes. And then, the things you actually want to do: travel, dining out, hobbies, gifts, entertainment. But there's an important step here. Don't simply take today's paycheck and assume you'll spend that exact amount in retirement. Some expenses may disappear. Your retirement contributions, for example, your daily commute, maybe your mortgage, maybe some work-related expenses. Your retirement budget should reflect the life you're actually planning to live, not the life you lived while commuting to work 5 days a week. And now, we could take that $50,000, multiply it by 25, and call it our retirement number. $50,000 times 25 equals $1,250,000. There it is, $1.25 million. But don't, because we're missing one of the most important pieces of the puzzle: income. If you're going to receive Social Security, a pension, or another reliable source of retirement income, you don't necessarily need your investments to produce the entire $50,000. Let's say your retirement spending is $50,000 a year, and your reliable income provides $20,000. That leaves a gap of $30,000. That's what your investments need to help cover. Now watch what happens. $30,000 times 25 equals $750,000. That's a very different target from $1.25 million. Because after accounting for that $20,000 of reliable income, the investment portfolio only has to cover the gap. $750,000. That's the power of starting with your spending and then subtracting your reliable income. We've got our number, $750,000. We're done, right? Not quite. Because retirement doesn't happen on a spreadsheet. It happens in the real world. And the real world has inflation. A dollar today won't buy the same amount of stuff 20 years from now. If inflation averages around 3%, prices roughly double over about 24 years. So that $50,000 lifestyle you're planning today could require roughly $100,000 decades from now. That's why retirement planning isn't simply about putting money in an account and walking away. Your portfolio still needs the potential to grow. And then there's another risk that can be especially dangerous when you first retire. It's called sequence of returns risk. Sounds intimidating. It really means bad timing. Imagine you retire, and the market drops sharply during your first couple of years. At the same time, you still need money to pay your bills. So you sell investments while they're down. That can permanently damage the portfolio you're relying on for the next few decades. This is one reason some retirees keep a cash or short-term bond reserve, often enough to cover roughly 1 to 2 years of planned spending. If the market has a terrible year, you have another source of money to draw from, instead of being forced to sell investments at the worst possible time. It's not about predicting the next crash. It's about giving yourself some breathing room if one happens. And now, here's something that can make your retirement plan much more powerful. Flexibility. Because here's what the traditional retirement calculation assumes. You spend the exact same amount every year, regardless of what the market is doing. But you're a human being, not a robot programmed to spend exactly $50,000 every single year. If the market has a terrible year, maybe the big European vacation gets pushed back. Maybe you eat out a little less. Maybe you delay a major purchase. Then, when markets recover, you loosen the belt a little. The key isn't predicting the future. It's having a plan that can adapt when reality doesn't cooperate. So let's put everything together. If you're trying to figure out your retirement target, start here. Step 1. Figure out what your retirement lifestyle is actually going to cost, not your salary, your spending. Step 2. Add up your reliable retirement income, Social Security, pension, other dependable income sources. Step 3. Subtract that income from your spending. That's your funding gap. Step 4. Use that gap to establish a starting portfolio target. For example, $50,000 of spending minus $20,000 of reliable income equals a $30,000 gap. Multiply that by 25, and you get a starting target of $750,000. Then, stress test the plan. Inflation, market downturns, how long retirement might last, and how flexible you can be with your spending. So, how much money do you really need to retire? There isn't one magic answer, and that's actually good news, because you don't have to chase some random number somebody put on the internet. You can build your own starting target. Start with what you want your retirement to cost. Subtract the income that's going to cover part of it. Calculate the gap. Then build a portfolio designed to help cover that gap while accounting for inflation, market risk, and the possibility that retirement lasts longer than you expect. The goal isn't to retire with the biggest number. The goal is to have enough. Enough to pay for the life you want. Enough to handle the things you didn't see coming. And enough to give your money a chance to last as long as you do. So don't ask, how much money does everyone else need to retire? Ask, how much will I need to fund the life I want? That's your number. Now go find yours. Get your number, make your plan, leave it in the comments section, hit that like button, and subscribe for more Stick Decisions. I'll see you in the next one.